Welcome to NASDAQ Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at NASDAQ. Joining me to discuss digital transformation investment in 2020 and beyond is Darren Roos, CEO of IFS and Enterprise Resource Planning Software Company. Darren, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Hey, Jill. Thanks for having me.
So give us a high-level overview of the digital transformation report and the methodology behind it.
We did this research in the spring of 2020 on the onset of the pandemic. And we did the survey with about 3,000 IT decision makers, predominantly C-suite executives, individuals working in operations across 6 markets in the UK, US, France, Germany, Nordics, and Australia, which are our key markets. And what we found out was some fascinating stuff. First of all, even though it was underway already and the impact was already being felt, 70% of businesses globally were still planning to invest in digital transformation. And about 52% said that they were actually going to increase spend rather than hold back. I think that was the really big thing that struck us straight away was, a lot of people were expecting, the market to contract. But what we were seeing is this real focus on how technology was going to have a big impact on recovery for most companies, or I guess in some cases, survival.
Yeah, and I actually thought that was one of the more interesting takeaways as well, that the first big takeaway is that blown timelines are more problematic than budget. So why is that? And what are the reasons for digital transformation hesitation? Regardless of COVID-19, why would they hesitate?
Look, I think the first thing is that there's a lot of companies that aren't sure, and certainly back in spring anyway, weren't sure exactly how it was going to impact them. Were they going to be able to collect money from their customers the way they were going to in the past? Was their business going to, sustain at all? Would they be able to pay their bills? So I think that's where the hesitation initially came from. But what we see very quickly, and in the discussions that I have with them, was that, there was a real recognition that those that were more technologically advanced, those that had spent money earlier, were weathering the storm much better. They were able to serve their customers remotely. If we take a retail environment as an example, clearly those that had e-commerce solutions were able to weather the storm more easily. And to your point on the blown timelines mattering more than blown budgets, those that had specific value that they were going to derive from a project, they wanted to get it done. How fast can I get this done? How soon can I start to realize that value? And if I have to pay a bit more for it, I'm okay with that, but I want to be able to capture that business value. And if that's, mitigating risk, then I want to have that risk mitigated quickly. If it's about increasing revenue through new models, I want to be able to capture that revenue quickly. And if it's about cost reduction, then I want to be able to take that cost out quickly. So that's where the whole timeline issue comes into it.
What trends are you now seeing globally, and how has the vendor process changed? I also thought it was interesting to see how cultural alignment was between the company and the vendor is also a key factor.
Yeah, so a few things. Look, I think customers are much more focused on value now rather than the hype that perhaps there would have been before. We're seeing customers being much more focused on solutions that are going to have a demonstrable impact. I touched earlier on, new business models, cost reduction, risk mitigation, and they're going to vendors that they can see can deliver that value for them rather than, a big sexy brand that perhaps they would have been drawn to in the past. So how do I get that value quickly, and how do I do it in a way that is going to support my business? And I think that's where this whole cultural alignment comes from. So, if they're a challenger brand, they're looking at challenger vendors. If they're looking for, if they're in the mid-market, they're looking for people who can supply solutions to them who are going to care enough about their business. And, in truth, if you look at enterprise technology, there are a number of vendors where, cultural alignment with their customers hasn't necessarily been how you would think about them. So I think that's definitely changing now. Unfortunately, when times get tough, not everybody's business practices are, what you would want to see. And we see that in customers now who are holding their vendors to a much higher standard. How do I get that project done? How do I get it done quickly? And can I pick a partner who's going to stand by me through this journey?
I also read that businesses want intelligent technology. What kind of technologies are businesses prioritizing?
Yeah, so I think, again, pretty, normal stuff. We see this massive growth in Zoom with, remote communication as an example. That's one that makes a lot of sense. But what we've seen, for example, is we have a solution called remote assistance, which enables people who are in a contact center somewhere to support on-site technicians who perhaps don't have the full skill set, or potentially even a customer. So anything that is able to help companies to better withstand the challenges that COVID have presented to them. And I think artificial intelligence, augmented reality, IoT, these are all the types of solutions that are enabling companies to, weather the storm better, and that's where customers are investing the money.
In the face of COVID-19 and the unprecedented pivots businesses have had to make, how much of a challenge is it to achieve full automation and change all those processes over?
Yeah, so I think every business is different. If you take our, enterprise software as an example, historically, our sales process would have been done face to face. Our implementation process would be done face to face. A lot of the way we support our customers would have been done face to face. And now globally, we do that all remotely. So I think, every business is facing, a unique challenge of how do they keep their employees safe, but continue to do business so that they can continue to pay those employees. So, irrespective of where they are, I think it's really a case of just looking at how do we deploy these intelligent technologies in order to enable us to look after our customers, which remains the number one priority, keep our employees safe, and keep the business going.
And finally, Darren, where does IFS fit into this ecosystem?
So look, we're what we would call ourselves as a challenger vendor, where we're able to provide solutions across that service management, ERP, asset management space, but with a much more, we like to believe, a much more customer-focused view, where we're engaging with customers around where is that business value going to come from, and then partnering with them for the long term on realizing those benefits, rather than just selling software, which, a lot of the vendors have historically done. And, if you just drop software with a customer, they're not going to realize any value. It's really about going on that journey with them through to value realization. And that's where IFS fits in.
All right, Darren, thanks for joining us on Trade Talks.
Thank you, Jill.
And thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at NASDAQ.